The ancient summoning chamber was dark and cracked, carved deep inside a mountain's heart. The air smelled of smoke, dust, and old magic. The walls were scarred by thousands of failed spells. 13 mages stood in a tight circle, their faces pale and tired. Their life force flowed into a glowing portal swirling in the middle of the room. They chanted, voices trembling with hope and fear. "Bring us the Eternals," Archmagus Theon whispered. His beard was so long and tangled it brushed the floor. The portal pulsed, bending space and time. It was meant to call powerful champions from a distant world, heroes of legend, gods of war. Instead, it spat out something very different. 4 humans tumbled through the portal, landing hard in a bloody battlefield under a strange red sky. The ground was soaked with the blood of thousands, angels, demons, and monsters locked in endless battle. The 4 humans lay stunned for a moment. Chloe Carter's last clear thought was about her dark elf costume, which she had spent too much money on for a game convention. Now, she was in a real war zone, dressed for fantasy, not survival. Chloe pushed herself up, tripping over a severed tentacle. She barely had time to wonder what was happening before a massive blade swung down where her head had been. The blade belonged to a horrible creature that looked like a nightmare made real, sharp teeth, angry eyes, and shadowy flesh. Suddenly, a loud roar echoed from behind her. Kenji Tanaka, a retired professional wrestler with muscles like a mountain, charged forward. Years of training took over his fear. With a mighty yell, he slammed the demon through the ground with a wrestling move called the powerbomb. The demon vanished into a crack in reality itself. Kenji wiped demon ichor off his old wrestling boots. "The Crusher protects his party," he said, breathing hard. Around them, demons and monsters stared in shock. Amara Fields floated above the ground, her body moving in graceful, flowing dances. Her anxious energy created glowing auras that froze nearby orcs into statues of ice. "I was just streaming a road trip," she muttered. "I have sponsors." Her fingers waved in the air, bending magic like ribbons of light. Paul Delgado stood perfectly still in his flannel shirt, calm amid the chaos. His face showed the hard lines of a man who had survived many struggles. When a glowing unicorn charged at him, he didn't think. His fist met its jaw with a loud crack. The unicorn collapsed, stunned. Everyone stopped and stared at Paul, the human who had knocked down a creature of pure light. A mark appeared on his forehead, glowing symbols that shimmered with ancient power. He touched it, surprised and annoyed. "I just wanted to support my friends at their nerd thing," he said. "I wasn't even going to dress up." The armies of angels, demons, and monsters were confused. They had fought this war for centuries, driven by ancient prophecies and endless hatred. They expected powerful gods or champions, not 4 humans acting like they were at a game or a wrestling match. Chloe climbed onto a pile of bodies and shouted, "Everyone freeze." To everyone's surprise, the warriors stopped moving as if caught in a spell. She waved her sword cane, its polished surface catching the strange red light. "Your blocking is awful," she said sharply to a demon lord whose flaming wings burned too bright. "Tone down the effects. And you," she pointed to an angel holding 6 swords, "pick one weapon and stick with it. You're upstaging everyone." The demon lord, Virgil, growled but listened. Chloe's voice held a strange power, not magic, but confidence. Nearby, Kenji found warriors from many factions watching him. "You powerbombed a pit lord through the ground," a scarred orc said, impressed. Kenji smiled. "Let me show you how to use momentum. Wrestling isn't just fighting. It's storytelling." Soon, he was teaching wrestling moves to angels and demons alike. They learned how to fall and sell hits. Even constructs made of living armor tried tag team moves, with mixed success. Amara stopped trying to understand. If this was a hallucination from bad sushi, she might as well make it memorable. Her dancing grew, shaping magic in new ways. A simple wave turned into crystal light. Her movements created small tears in space, sparkling faintly like strawberries. "Teach us," a young demon begged. She taught them the renegade, a dance that reshaped magic itself. The battlefield filled with hundreds dancing in sync. Spells twisted and bent, old wards shattered, and magic changed its rules. Weapons turned into instruments. Armor became costumes. The bloody ground blossomed with flowers. Paul worked quietly nearby, fixing broken magical weapons and machines. "No wonder this cursed ballista fires screaming skulls," he said. He cleaned it and suddenly it fired confused doves. A paladin called him Beast Slayer and spoke of prophecy, but Paul waved him off. "I'm a mechanic from a small town. I fix things. You've been trying to solve problems by hitting harder. Sometimes, you just need to tighten a few screws and change the oil." The mark on Paul's forehead glowed brighter with each fix. Power hummed in his hands as he worked, repairing the ancient machinery that kept the war going. Chloe gathered angel and demon commanders in a circle. "You've been fighting for centuries," she said. "No breaks, no pay, no respect. You're slaves to your bosses, gods and executives far away who don't care about you." The commanders looked shocked. Chloe smiled. "We're going to form a union. Workers united. You deserve better." The mood shifted. Ancient hatred softened as warriors realized they shared the same pain, exhaustion, fear, and endless orders. Meanwhile, the countdown in the sky blinked, 5 hours until the unmaking. Chloe raised her sword cane. "We've got 5 hours to fix this mess. Let's work together." The war froze, but the real battle was just beginning. The 4 humans, the strange, unexpected champions, had started to change the rules. They were not gods or demons. They were something new. And the future of the realms depended on what they would do next. The battlefield lay quiet but tense. The armies of angels, demons, and strange creatures watched the 4 humans with a mix of curiosity and disbelief. Chloe stood at the center, sword cane in hand, eyes bright with determination. Around her, commanders from both sides whispered, still trying to understand what had just happened. Kenji was teaching wrestling moves to a group of orcs and angels. His booming voice echoed over the field. "Wrestling is about respect, trust, and telling a story together. When you fight like that, no one really gets hurt. You learn to work as a team." The angels struggled to match the orcs' brute strength, but slowly they began to move together, learning the rhythm of the ring. Nearby, a lich with a surprisingly deep voice practiced color commentary, narrating the matches with humor and energy. Amara floated gracefully, leading a large crowd of dancers from every faction. Her movements created glowing trails of light that shaped the very air. The magic rippled, bending reality, softening the harsh edges of war. A demon whispered to her friend, eyes shining with wonder. "This dance, it feels like hope." Paul worked beneath the shattered remains of a massive war machine. His hands moved quickly, repairing broken gears and cleaning soot from magical circuits. The cursed weapon sputtered and groaned as he adjusted its core. "Here," Paul muttered, "a little oil, a little tightening, good as new." Suddenly, the weapon hummed softly, no longer a source of fear but a strange kind of beauty. A paladin approached cautiously. "Beast Slayer, the prophecy says you will save us." Paul shook his head. "I'm just a mechanic. I fix things. That's all." Chloe gathered the commanders and warriors in the command tent, a large tent made from torn banners and broken shields. The atmosphere was thick with tension and hope. "We've been fighting for centuries without rest," she said. "You don't need to be slaves to this war. You deserve better." Virgil, the demon lord, frowned. "You talk of unions and rest. We are warriors, born to fight." Chloe smiled gently. "And you're also tired. Burned out. You forgot why you fight." Celestine, the angel commander, nodded slowly. She's right. This endless war drains our strength. We fight because we must, but do we remember what we protect? The crowd murmured in agreement. For the first time, questions stirred among the soldiers. What if there was a better way? Amara's dance group swelled to thousands. Their synchronized movements shaped magic like never before. The ground bloomed with flowers, weapons became musical instruments, and the air filled with hope. Chloe turned to the commanders. We need rules. Fair work hours, breaks, respect for all. It's time to build peace, not just fight. Kenji climbed onto a makeshift stage. I've been in many fights, but this is different. We can change the story. Suddenly, the countdown in the sky blinked again, 4 hours until the unmaking. Paul stood and addressed the crowd. Your war machines and magic are breaking down because they're old and worn. You need to fix your tools and your minds. He showed them broken artifacts, swords with cracked runes, shields with rusted edges. With a few adjustments, he made them work again. This is what I do, Paul said. Fix problems. Maybe fixing a broken world isn't so different. The crowd listened, captivated. Virgil looked at Chloe. You bring strange ideas. But maybe. It's time to try. Celestine nodded. Yes. We have fought for centuries. Perhaps it is time to heal. Chloe smiled. We're just getting started. The war paused, but change rippled through the realms. The battlefield had changed. No longer filled with the roar of battle cries and clash of weapons, it hummed with a different energy, a strange mix of hope, curiosity, and uncertainty. The armies stood watching as the 4 humans led something new, a revolution of spirit and heart. Chloe stood before a gathering crowd of angels, demons, and others. Her sword cane sparkled in the soft light. You've been slaves to this war too long. Now, you have a choice. Fight or work together to build a future. Virgil, the great demon lord, folded his arms. Why should we trust humans? You are strange, unpredictable. Chloe smiled. Because sometimes, strange and unpredictable are exactly what the world needs. Kenji organized wrestling matches that became more than fights, they were stories told through motion. 2 warriors, 1 angel and 1 demon, squared off in the ring. They circled, exchanged moves, and the crowd roared with excitement. It was conflict with honor, respect, and fun. This is how we learn to listen, Kenji said. Through respect and trust. Amara led a dance troupe that had grown to thousands. Their synchronized moves wove spells that shimmered in the air, reshaping magic itself. The crimson fields bloomed with wildflowers, and the sky brightened. A young demon whispered to her friend, I feel alive, not broken. Paul continued his work in the shadow of a shattered fortress. He pulled out tools and repaired machines once thought lost. Each fix pulsed with new energy. You have the power to rebuild, Paul told the crowd. Not just weapons, but your world. The commanders gathered for a council meeting inside a large tent. Chloe spoke passionately. This war has cost too much. Let's set new rules, limits to battle, breaks, and respect. Celestine, the angel commander, agreed. We must protect, not just fight. Virgil nodded slowly. Perhaps it is time for change. The countdown in the sky blinked, 3 hours until the unmaking. Chloe's eyes narrowed. We don't have much time. But we have hope. The armies began to work together, building not walls but stages and theaters. They rehearsed plays that told their stories, stories of pain, hope, and change. Weapons were turned into instruments, their sounds creating beautiful music. Kenji taught warriors how to perform, to tell stories through combat that didn't hurt but healed. Amara's dances grew into magical flash mobs that rippled through reality, changing the laws of magic. Paul discovered something troubling. The war's magical infrastructure was held together by old spells and fragile bindings, barely holding reality itself together. This isn't magic, Paul said, it's bad engineering. He worked tirelessly, repairing the core of reality's engine. Each fix made the world steadier. The gods watched from their realms, confused and angry. Corvanther, the god of war, thundered down. What is this madness? Chloe stepped forward, calm but strong. We are changing the story. Fighting is not the answer. Corvanther's eyes blazed. You challenge the divine order. Kenji stepped beside her. I challenge you to a match. A fight with rules, respect, and honor. Winner decides the future. The god laughed, then nodded. Very well. Let the match begin. The crowd gathered around a ring made from shattered weapons and threads of fate. The ground trembled as mortal and god faced off. The battle was fierce and dramatic, full of near falls and powerful moves. Kenji used skill and heart, reminding Corvanther why he once protected mortals instead of destroying them. Finally, exhausted, Corvanther yielded. You have reminded me what victory means. The crowd erupted in cheers. The countdown blinked, 2 hours until the unmaking. Chloe raised her sword cane. Now, we write a new ending. The armies and gods joined together in a great chorus, their voices creating a song of peace and hope. Amara led a dance that touched every heart, and Paul completed the final repairs to reality's engine. As the last seconds ticked away, the warfields transformed. Blood-soaked earth became rainbow gardens. Weapons turned to instruments. The gods and mortals alike found new purpose, to build, to create, to live. The unmaking never came. Instead, a new dawn rose over the realms. The war had ended not with destruction, but with hope. The new dawn over the realms brought a calm unlike any before. The once crimson battlefield had transformed into a vibrant garden, bursting with colors and life. Flowers bloomed where swords had fallen. The air smelled fresh, carrying the sweet scent of hope. The armies of angels, demons, and creatures that once fought now stood side by side, uncertain but curious about this peace. Chloe stood in the center of the newly built city, a place rising from the ruins. It was a strange mix of old and new, broken weapons repurposed as art, banners from both sides woven together into tapestries. She held her sword cane like a director's baton, ready to lead this new story. The commanders gathered around her. Virgil, the demon lord, looked more thoughtful than ever. This peace, it feels strange. But I admit, I am tired. Celestine, the angel commander, nodded. We must learn to live without war. But how do we trust each other now? Chloe smiled warmly. We build trust by working together. By sharing stories, by understanding. Kenji's wrestling academy had become the heart of the city's culture. The ring was no longer a place of violence but a stage where conflicts were resolved through performance. Warriors practiced moves not to harm, but to express and connect. Remember, Kenji said to a group of eager young fighters, it's not about winning or losing. It's about telling the truth with your body. That's the real fight. Amara led dance classes in the open plazas. Her movements shaped magic that brought joy and healing. The dancers came from all factions, their styles blending into something new, a fusion of light and shadow, grace and power. Magic, Amara said, is about connection. When we dance together, we change the world. Paul's repair shop buzzed with activity. He fixed magical artifacts and helped rebuild broken parts of reality. His shop was a strange place, filled with tools and enchanted objects. A young angel brought a flaming sword that kept writing embarrassing poetry. Paul chuckled. Break up curse, he said. I'll have this fixed in 20 minutes. Chloe convened the city council, a mix of former enemies and new friends. Decisions were made by vote, discussion, and sometimes even improvisation. Our first priority, Chloe said, is to set fair work schedules. Everyone deserves rest, health care, and respect. The council nodded in agreement, laughter and debate mixing in a strange harmony. Virgil stood beside her, smiling slightly. You've taught us to see beyond old hatred. The gods watched from afar, no longer distant rulers but advisors and friends. Minerva, goddess of wisdom, approached Paul's shop. You speak of accountability. We seek your guidance. Paul shrugged, wiping grease from his hands. Just fixing what's broken. Corvanther, the once fierce god of war, attended the city's festivals. He was learning to play drums and even tried dancing. Kenji coached him patiently. You've got the rhythm, Kenji said. Just lose the anger. The city thrived. The rainbow garden stretched wide, and laughter echoed where silence once ruled. Old enemies shared meals and stories. Children of all species played together in peace. One quiet evening, Chloe sat with her friends beneath glowing trees that shimmered with magic. The weight of centuries of war seemed to lift. Kenji handed her a cold drink. You changed everything. Paul nodded, adjusting a tiny gear in a magical device. We fixed more than machines. We fixed hearts. Amara smiled, her eyes shining. We made magic from joy. Virgil looked at the stars. Maybe this is the real power. Chloe raised her sword cane, light trailing from its tip. This is only the beginning. Above them, a small monument stood with a simple message, here, for humans ended 7 centuries of war in 5 hours, not by force or destiny, but by being aggressively, chaotically, beautifully human. Paul chuckled, and don't forget, I still want my beer back. The friends laughed, knowing their story was far from over. But for now, peace reigned. The city of peace pulsed with life. Where once stood walls of war, now rose gardens, theaters, and halls filled with laughter and music. The rainbow garden stretched as far as the eye could see, glowing softly under a sky free from smoke and fire. The people who had fought for centuries now walked together, learning to live side by side. Chloe stood on a stage in the city square, addressing a crowd that included angels, demons, dwarves, elves, and humans alike. Her voice was strong, carrying the weight of their shared journey. We came here as strangers, thrown into a war not our own. But we found a way to change it. Together. The crowd cheered, voices rising like a wave of hope. Kenji stepped forward, smiling. Conflict doesn't have to end in pain. It can be a story we tell with respect and honor. Wrestling taught me that. And now, it teaches all of us. Amara danced beside him, her movements weaving light and color through the air. The magic she shared had become the city's heartbeat. When we move together, we create. When we create, we heal. Paul stood nearby, his hands busy repairing a delicate magical artifact. I've fixed many things, machines, weapons, even reality itself. But the greatest fix was helping us all find a better way. Virgil, the great demon lord, looked out over the crowd with quiet pride. We learned that old enemies can become friends. That hope can grow even in darkness. The gods watched from their realms, humbled and changed. Minerva, the goddess of wisdom, spoke softly to Celestine. This new world is fragile, but full of promise. Celestine nodded. They found a path we never saw, through understanding and unity. Chloe looked to her friends. Our work is not done. Peace must be nurtured. Stories must be told. And we must always remember what brought us here. The crowd raised their voices in a song of hope, a melody that reached across realms and time. Amara led the dance, Kenji guided the rhythm, Paul crafted the instruments, and Chloe conducted with her sword cane glowing bright. The unmaking, once a threat looming over all, had become a distant memory. In its place, a new reality blossomed, one built on choice, compassion, and the power of being human. As the sun set over the rainbow gardens, the friends stood together, ready for whatever stories the future would bring. Paul raised a mug. To fixing what's broken. Kenji laughed. To fighting with heart. Amara smiled. To dancing in the light. Chloe grinned. To the beautiful chaos of being alive. Virgil's deep voice rumbled softly. To new beginnings. And under the stars, their voices joined as one, a song of hope that would echo for all time.